This is Optimized, a marketing performance podcast geared toward all things multifamily marketing. I'm your host, Janet Rosseth, a 25-year veteran in multifamily marketing and founder and CEO of Cadence Marketing Solutions. Optimizing is defined as making the best or most effective use of a situation, opportunity, process, or resource. My mission here is to bring you ideas, practices, and perspectives to help you optimize one conversation at a time with industry pros who influence multifamily marketing. You'll hear from founders, leaders, marketers, and operators who are breaking the barriers to achieve optimal performance in multifamily. This episode is brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, delivering the latest news, ideas, and inspiration across the multifamily sector. Now, let's get into today's conversation. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Optimized, a marketing performance podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Janet Rosseth, 25-year veteran in multifamily marketing, and I'm here to help you optimize in your daily work, life, the balance of all of it. Whether it's prop tech that you're working on or it's meaningful data, I'm here to bring conversations that help you achieve 1% better. And I am super excited to have Corey Leschel here today from Gallery Residential. Corey's a regional director. And I think one of the most intriguing things about this guest is that Corey's played both roles. He's had a hot minute in marketing and in the ops side and as a regional director. And I think he has a really good perspective on the synergy between marketing and operations. So I am looking forward to introduce Corey Leschel. Hi, Corey.
Hey, Janet. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. I'm glad you're here today. And of course, my first question to every guest is, how did you know you always wanted to be in multifamily? And tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Yeah. So I was in my early 20s living in Jacksonville, Florida. And, was in kind of a weird space in my early 20s, as many of us are. I had, actually dropped out of college. I was working at a restaurant and didn't have a ton of clarity on what I wanted my future to look like. So I actually was connecting with one of my best friends from high school who was working in property management. She was an assistant manager at the time. And she kind of gave me, this advice. She's like, you need to get into this business. It's so much fun. It's sort of like, when you're leasing apartments, it's like being a realtor, except you don't have to go out and find any of the prospects. They kind of just come to you and you kind of sell them the apartments and you make a bunch of commissions. And so it sounded so cool to me. So I ended up landing my first role in leasing with Pegasus Residential at a property in Jacksonville, Florida, and really quickly fell in love with just the day-to-day of, property management, and really kind of came into my own in leasing, actually. And so I fell in love with that sales process. I loved the people element of, just being on site and connecting with, my coworkers, prospects, residents, supplier partners, and really kind of set the framework there, I think, for my trajectory since. So spent about a year at that community and then worked into a leasing manager role, and then spent a couple years on the road as a sales and operations support specialist with Pegasus, which was a lot of fun. And then eventually went back on site as a property manager and then a general manager, where I supported 2 different communities, and then eventually pivoted into marketing for about 5-6 months, and then went back into operations.
Just long enough to see the behind the scenes.
Yeah. Okay.
And now you are a regional director.
Yeah. So been in this role for just about a year now, made the move over to Gallery in 2024, and currently oversee 8 communities, most of which are lease-ups throughout Georgia and the Carolinas.
Awesome. We're going to have fun with a lot of what you just introduced. First of all, I don't think your story is uncommon. I think so many of the best people that land in multifamily land here exactly how you did, that they're in just a little bit of a period without clarity, without direction. They like a lot of things. They like variety, but they haven't found the career path that provides that. I feel like you just wrote a really good job description that maybe we need to change the keywords to, just dropped out of college, lacking clarity, looking for fun career path.
Yeah, no, and I just remember it's so funny looking back. I thought the coolest thing ever was having my own business cards. I hope that
Right.
doesn't age me too much,
Did you
but
actually
I
get
just
your
remember
name on
thinking,
them
"Ooh,
or
I'm
did they
so
have a fill in the
excited."
blank?
Yeah, no, they printed my name on it, and I thought that was just the
Nice.
coolest thing ever. And I was like, I'm a real professional now, and
Right.
I just quickly fell in love with it in really all aspects, and kind of tapping into all of the different facets of multifamily. And I think it's such an addicting industry because you
I
touch
agree.
on so many different points in so many different areas.
Yeah, there's
So
so much
for me, it
variety
just
every
kind of
day.
began. Uh
Yeah.
huh. Yeah.
And I'll tell you just, my own story of how I got here. Yours is genius, actually, that you didn't continue to spend money on that education when you were able to find a path. I did the opposite.
Yeah.
I kept chasing a change in major, thinking,
Mm,
I don't know what I want, but this looks cool. So I'll switch and start taking classes in that area. And I also ended up in property management off of a friend who said, you should try leasing. And I think I'd been in college for like 42 years by then.
right.
So
Right.
yeah,
That's
it's
how I
like
felt too.
this is an industry where you really can find the path and love the path and lean into it, whether you have a degree or don't have a degree. And I love that about the industry.
Agreed. Certainly.
Yeah. Yeah. And look at what you've achieved. And tell me a little bit. You're sitting on a couple of committees through NAA right now.
Yeah, so I actually had the opportunity in 2023 to apply for the 20 in their 20s program, which is now called 20 on the Rise. And so was honored to be accepted into the class of 2024. So got to attend Apartmentalize and, hang out with my cohort up in Philly, which was a ton of fun, and really felt so inspired attending Apartmentalize last year. And so had the opportunity to apply for some national committees at the tail end of 2024, and I was fortunate and honored to be selected for the NextGen committee this year, as well as the RPM Careers Committee. So we just had our first kickoff call for NextGen, and then have our kickoff call for RPM Careers next week. So looking forward to
That's
serving and
incredible.
collaborating with such a great group.
Congratulations on that. That is such an exciting
Thank you.
path and one that I think it makes me really proud of this industry for paving those opportunities for people to find that path and find that journey and really lean into ways that you can give back in the industry. I
Yeah,
appreciate your
definitely.
service there as well. I think I'm very
Oh, thank
curious
you.
what the next gen is going to be up to.
Yeah, so a lot of focus, I think, this year on the 20 on the Rise program, and so it's sort of an electric feeling. I think just kind of talking about it, I've been really focused on getting some folks that I know to apply for the program this year, and I think it'll just continue to build momentum. So definitely
That's
excited about
exciting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we would have had that when I was just entering the industry, but I'm in a market that doesn't always get access to all of that. So it's really
Mhm.
cool to hear around the country the access points into other involvement in the industry outside of just your organization, because you just learn so much and you meet so many people. And you've been around long enough to see that people don't leave the industry. People stay for a long time, whether
Right.
you move from company to company on the operations end or you switch into a vendor role. It
Mhm.
is really an industry where people stay put. So you continue to see each other at conferences and online. And it's just cool little niche industry, but one that's also very large. So I am curious. I want to dig in a little bit to your involvement in both the leasing end and then stepping into a little bit of a marketing role and then stepping back into operations. Tell me what you learned there about the importance of the synergy between ops and leasing and marketing.
Sure. Yeah. So, at the time I had the opportunity, I was living in Nashville, then moved to Atlanta, joined the marketing department with Pegasus, and had just the most incredible experience in that role. So, there were some rollouts taking place. So I got to help, kind of curate some new website templates and design and get those set up. And I really learned quickly, how different it is when you're working in a support department compared to when you're actually on site, doing the work for the property day to day in that capacity. So something that I think I've been able to really take with me since is trying to connect the folks on site with those leaders and support departments. So something that I do now is, really focus on if I have a new community director starting, or if I have a new lease up that's getting onboarded, set a 15-minute call for, the folks on site to kind of meet their marketing lead, right? And really just kind of put a face with the name and get to know each other a little bit better. That's a great way to just kind of build that relationship between, those two parties up front. But also, especially with how tough a lot of markets are right now, digital advertising and that marketing strategy is more important than ever. So it helps our managers, and then it also helps, our marketing teams when the folks on site are really educated on what goes into marketing, and they're aware of what, our metrics are, what we're looking at, what, really goes into, a solid SEO or SEM strategy, and really understanding what's driving the traffic and how to really manage that appropriately and what they need to be looking for. And so it might seem pretty basic in nature, but I think that's really the core of building that, strong connection, is educating the on-site teams to really take ownership of their property marketing to an extent and work with, their support departments on setting their assets up for success.
I don't think it's basic at all. In fact, I'm really intrigued by it because I've spent, 25 years leading marketing within organizations, and I would call your role a driver. When we launch new initiatives, or we're trying to meet certain expectations on conversion metrics or whatever it may be, I look to those regional directors as drivers on whatever it is that the marketing department or other departments are trying to achieve. We really need the folks in your role to inspire the on-site teams to meet those expectations. And without the people in your role acting as sort of a driver and kind of inspiring that momentum, it's incredibly challenging to keep that moving. Mm-hmm. And it is as simple as you said, just inviting that connection between the department and the on-site teams and having that face-to-face time and understanding each other's goals. But it's not all that often that people take the time to do that. Right. I applaud you for doing that. I think it's incredibly important.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And, I don't know if my outlook would have just naturally been, this way had I not had the opportunity to work, in a marketing department at one point. So I think it's definitely been helpful, for my teams to really just get that understanding and look at, the folks in the marketing department as, another layer of true support and, just a helping hand and a guide, right? Because I think, digital marketing specifically in a lot of ways, especially right now, is really the life force behind our property operating successfully. If we're not covering our basics complex. There. And
it can be challenging to explain and understand. And then you add in all these tools like AI technology and conversion tactics on page, and it gets confusing. And that's the bridge between leasing and marketing. And, I often say that the challenge with the marketing role or any support department is that you're tasked with changing behavior across the organization, but the people that you're leading to make those changes don't report to you. They report to a regional director like you. So having that middle ground where you're connecting the dots between the stakes in achieving those goals and the outcomes and why it's important to chase down those relationships and understand the work that department does and how it impacts the work that you're doing on site, I think is just so important.
Yeah, agreed. And one thing too, I think, cultivating those relationships, it's so empowering, I think, for both marketing and our on-site teams. Yes. Something I have my teams involved with is, if we're running through, a PPC campaign, for example, I look at my community directors as, the experts of their asset and the experts in their market. So we're going through keywords and we bring in the community directors to be part of that process when we're thinking through what do we need to add in, what do we need to remove, or whatever the case is. So we give them an opportunity to be involved. And I think it does wonders just for their confidence and feeling, that overall just kind of knowledge of their asset and really what's going on behind the scenes. So
right.
It's been impactful.
Absolutely. I think that's so great. That's and involving them too allows them to grow in their position as well. They have just a more well-rounded look at the components that go into bringing the leads to their property. And it might just mean that they convert quite a bit more too.
Yeah.
And, I operate too under the standpoint that when vacancy rises, it's never just a lead issue.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of other pieces too. We can get the lead to the door, but converting it is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
And then holding on to it long enough to get the application and long enough to sign the lease and have them move in is, it really takes a team effort there. So I think that's great that you involve them in that conversation. I just feel like that's such a great synergy that you're building between the site teams and the support departments. And you mentioned, Corey, that you are leading somewhere around 8 lease-ups right now. That's a huge undertaking.
6 lease-ups and then 2 stabilized. Yeah.
Huge undertaking. Can you please take us through, for myself and for the listeners, like, how do you keep all of those balls in the air and moving parts gaining momentum and gaining traction on that many lease-ups at once?
Yeah. So, I really focus. I had a vice president at my prior firm that, she kind of told me, she's like, even in my role now, I start my day the way I did as a property manager. And so, again, like I'm super focused on the basics. So I'm checking dashboards, I'm pulling a box score every morning, and I'm really strategizing through, our performance week to date, month to date, where we need to adjust, in really assessing from that way. So, making sure our product, we have ready product, making sure, our ILS, sources are looking the way they need to, that specials are pushing through to those platforms, that pricing is correct. So I'm really focused on those basic points day to day. And then, I really focus on communication with the team. So, we do huddles weekly with all of my community directors, one-on-ones as well. And then specifically for my lease-ups that are in really challenging markets or have, any unique challenges, I have a daily focus call where we'll, I'll get on the phone and, get on Teams with the community director. Sometimes, one of our managing directors or a managing partner will be on the call, and then marketing as well. And so we like to have the calls at the top of the day to kind of run through strategy, anything pending, where we're at with traffic, and, really keeping a firm pulse on what's going on in the market as well. And that's the time we kind of chat through all of those details and make any adjustments that we need to, or present any potential adjustments to ownership, to make changes and, just make sure that we're pivoting when we need to.
Right. That is, oh my gosh, that's the perfect word for lease-ups, is you are constantly pivoting.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, the C of O date never waits for you to make decisions.
Right. Exactly.
You can take another week to sign that ad contract, or you can, the model furniture can stall out a little longer, but the C of O date does not wait. So you do have to pivot a lot when you don't, when the expectation that you had coming doesn't fall into place. It is all pivoting in lease-ups. And what you just said about starting your day with the box score and really looking into the reporting and looking into the various areas made me think so much of my days in retail before I got into this industry. I mean, it was not long spent when I was in college, but that's how you started the morning. When you open a store in retail, or even when you open a store in restaurant, there's a process before the doors open to customers that happens behind the scenes to make sure you're fully ready to deliver a great day. And that's a good place to start. And you're in a really competitive market. So I imagine that you are having to have conversations about getting even more competitive or differentiating from the product down the street, because you're all sharing the same prospects. Sure. So how do you address that? How do you and your teams work through differentiating?
Yeah. So, what's interesting is, at Gallery, we're a third party firm. So, we manage our real estate on behalf of, a variety of different clients. And, we don't always have full control over product necessarily. So we don't get a final say in what the floor plans are going to be, or oftentimes even what the FF&E is going to look like, or, the branding sometimes. So there's a lot of elements that we don't necessarily have full control over, right? But what we can control is the experience. And so something that still shocks me to this day, because, when I started in leasing, I felt like I just had a great support system that trained me well from the onset. But you'd be shocked, if you shop 10 properties, I wager that, in any market, at least half, you're going to walk in, they're not going to stand up, they're not going to shake your hand, they're not going to make you feel that it's important to them that you're there. And so something we're really focused on, specifically at Gallery, is the hospitality piece. So, really encouraging our teams through in-person trainings and a lot of support in that way, just on embracing that. We want to be the best of the best and make people feel like they're at the Ritz-Carlton every time they walk through that leasing office, and even after they move in. And so really focused on those hospitality elements and just making sure that every touch point feels elevated and, really, really special. So, and it doesn't have to be super expensive, just a nice note for a prospect coming in, we're so happy you're here, so-and-so, and just making people feel special, and that, our teams really took the time to curate that experience. So I think that's how I'd answer that question on the kind of day-to-day piece. But, we have some programs that we've implemented that I think have really set us apart in a lot of markets that are ultra saturated. So we rolled out an amazing artist in residence program. So several of the communities, it's really cool. So several of the communities that I oversee, we have different artists in the communities that live on site. So this is our way to really kind of give back to, we call them, for example, like a starving artist or something, but, we barter like, an apartment, a discounted or free apartment.
Great opportunity for that artist too.
Yeah. And so, in return, they live on site, and they're really ingrained in that fabric of the community. So, at some of our Nashville communities, we have musicians or lyricists.
Right.
In one of my deals here in Atlanta, we actually have a chef that lives on site. We have visual artists. Some properties have horticulturalists. We have wellness gurus even. And so part of that is that, we're really giving back to that community in a way, but they are building community on site with our teams and our residents.
Are you able to leverage them across multiple sites in your portfolio then? If you've got the chef living on one, can you bring the chef's talents across to the other properties as well? So maybe you have 6 total artists, but that gives you 6 programming elements across the portfolio.
Yeah, there's certainly opportunity for that. And we even had, we have an amazing chef at another community here in Atlanta that came and catered our corporate, holiday gathering.
Cool.
So they're so integrated into the framework of our company. And we actually have, it's really unique. We have a director of resident strategy. So we have a whole resident.
I was just going to ask you, how do you source these artists? That seems like a whole other job, and you just walked right into it, that there is actually a job for that.
Yeah, well, it's really cool. So we have Melania Armenta. She, we like to call her our artist curator. But she oversees that entire platform and program. But, in a lot of markets, that, for example, in the Carolinas, we rely heavily as well on our on-site teams to kind of be the ambassadors there, kind of reach out to their network and their community and kind of help us pull that talent. So it's great because it empowers the on-site teams as well. And it gives us, a really great kind of source of leverage when we're looking at our competitors. And, if there's a lot of similar product in the market, this is something that's really set ourselves apart.
Amazing. What do your residents say about it?
They love it. They absolutely love it. So, and it's so cool because if you look at like the social media pages for some of these properties, you see, there's painting classes that, if you have a visual artist, and then, I'm scrolling through the stories, and the next one is a tiramisu making class. And then, the next post after that is we have a supper club at one of the communities that the chef hosts every month. So there's always something unique going on, which I love. And it's just a way that really, elevates the experience, no matter what market, no matter what type of asset. And it's just, it helps a lot with just, the on-site teams being able to sell the product, right? So it gives them a huge way to kind of leverage, their community in a way that no one else is really doing in a lot of these markets.
And I think you said it earlier too, that when you don't have control over the brand or the finished packages or the floor plan layout, at the end of the day, like it is very much that experience that stands out. Yeah. And we struggle. I just had a conversation this morning with a group of marketers that, we really struggle with social media content for sites when there isn't somebody on site that is comfortable curating and posting that information. And you've just created this element of content that isn't just content, it's very experiential. And it's so different from the same box down the street that might have just a little bit different countertop or a couple more shelves in the closet, or a little bit more brand language. You've delivered that experience. And I think there are a lot of prospects that come through, I call it drive-by digital, that come through your social media and they may not like or fan your page, but you can see it in your visits. You can see the drive-bys. And I've got to imagine that there's a little bit of a sticky factor on your social pages when a prospect drives through it and just kind of peeks in and views it and thinks, what's it actually like to live here? You got something extremely different. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's very different. And I think for me, when I first heard about this program, coming to Gallery, I think I was just instantly intrigued and hooked. And it's been a lot of fun too, to be part of it, I have to say.
Right. So, you have to experience it in order to back it, right?
Yeah. And what's great is, a lot of we've had, ownership groups and development partners that, have really bought into this, which is so incredibly exciting. And so, this morning I was actually visiting one of our new lease-ups here in Atlanta, and we have a handful of artists that'll be doing a residency that are all visual artists. And so part of that residency is going to be, they're going to do mural work and design throughout the whole community. And so cool. Kind of going through the proposals and just seeing that vision kind of.
Yeah, you absolutely have to have owners that endorse that.
Oh yeah.
But I imagine that after operating this way and delivering this kind of experience for just so long, you probably attract owners that are seeking something different and that are looking to Gallery to manage their properties because of that experience you bring. They're not just looking for the same old package of reporting. They're looking for something different.
Yeah, especially again, like market conditions right now, it's really hard in a lot of these markets. Yeah. And, I think a lot of the clients are looking for ways that they can think out of the box and create an experience that's going to kind of meet their bottom line. Yeah. So this has been something that's been a lot of fun, and in our way too, a great way to give back to an amazing community. So
yeah. And kudos to Gallery for being able to bring that across the portfolio, because it's one thing to have one property manager that's really creative and innovative like that and put that in place, but then that property manager leaves, goes somewhere else, and does the program stay intact? Certainly, you've got it embedded across the portfolio with a more central position that curates it all. And so if one manager leaves that had a really good connection with that artist stays in place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. That's really cool.
It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I wish I could take the credit, but it's definitely a team effort. And, Melania Armenta, who's our director of resident strategy, is just very much a genius in that way. So
yeah,
it's been a lot of fun to work with her and learn from her as well.
I'm not going to be shy in saying I feel like she should be my next podcast guest.
Yes, absolutely.
Send her my way, please.
I sure will. Absolutely.
So this has been a lot of fun talking to you. And I always have one last question for all of my guests that, the podcast is called Optimize. We're all about seeking that 1% better. And I always like to ask you personally, Cory, what do you do in your daily life to just show up and be 1% better every day? What do you do behind the scenes that continues to help you grow and achieve?
Sure. So for me, it starts at the top of my day. I think that quote where it says, if you win your morning, you win your day. Yes. I really try to live by that. And so for me, it's getting up early, very early.
How early is very early?
Like 5,
okay.
Maybe 5:30. But I always try to do something physical in the morning. So lately, sometimes we'll do like a CrossFit class, or lately I've been into hot yoga, and just to really start my day on the right foot. And I find that I perform my best at work when I take care of myself physically that way in the morning. And so it's been a game changer over the last couple of years. Just get your mind right and get you started on the right foot. And it's not always possible, right, if you're traveling, but even if I'm, on site or out of town, I'll wake up and do something, whether it's a meditation or, go for a walk or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think taking that time for yourself in the morning is really crucial to be set up for success.
So I'm going to ask the question that every listener is dying to know. What time do you go to bed?
Early. Usually I'm in bed by like 9. Yeah. So.
Right. Like I have grown into a morning person as well. I wasn't always, but if I am up before the sunrise or catch the sunrise, I'm a happy camper. And if I naturally wake up at like 5:15, I always kind of think like, oh my gosh, I could have 3 hours before anyone else really starts. Like, right. I like to run. And if I can get out in summer days where the dew is still on the grass and it's completely uninterrupted, nobody has put their energy into the morning yet. It's what I make of it. It's just fantastic. But you're right. It doesn't always happen. I'm not going to pretend to say that there aren't some days that I hit the snooze alarm a few more times and roll into the office right as everything's coming at me. But it does always feel like I'm trying to catch up to myself all day long if I don't start ahead of myself. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
That's great advice. I love it. Can you tell listeners, how can they follow you, follow what Gallery is doing, learn more about the NAA path that you were able to take?
Sure. Yeah. So definitely, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's just Corey Leschel, CoryLeschel. Really active on there. So if you want to shoot me a message with any questions, more than happy to support and answer and help however I can. And, Gallery as a whole, we're a newer organization, but, we're growing pretty fast. So you can find us on our website, galleryresidential.com. And we're also pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So definitely.
Fantastic. And for anyone who's interested in the path that you were able to lean into with NAA, any advice on how to open those doors?
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely recommend starting at your local level if possible with your local association and working through membership opportunities, committee opportunities, volunteer opportunities, and going from there. Or, there's a ton of scholarships and programs you can apply for directly through NAA. So one of those that I couldn't recommend more is the 20 on the Rise program, which formerly 20 in their 20s, but application window actually closes mid-February this year. But if you've been in the industry for 10 years or less, you are eligible to apply, get a free registration to NAA and a ton more, including networking opportunities and an opportunity to really connect and make a difference and an impact in the industry. So
that's exciting. About the time this podcast launches, that window might be closed, but if you're listening, that doesn't mean that it's closed forever. Like you can start planning for next year. It's a good time to start thinking about your career growth and where you want to go. Because like Corey and I had a conversation about earlier, like this industry gets under your skin and you stay for a long time. It's full of variety. It's full of great people. And it's full of great opportunities.
Definitely.
Corey, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest here on Optimized. I appreciate you so much. And listeners,
likewise, thanks so much, Janet.
If you liked what you heard today, it's all brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. Please give the show a like, follow and subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you know a good guest, I'm always open to meet new people and have these conversations about optimizing what we do in this industry. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you for taking the time today for this session. I hope you found a bit of inspiration and wisdom to optimize your performance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And remember, this podcast is proudly brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living. If you're a marketing influencer, be sure to check out Cadence Marketing Solutions at cadencems.com. We've made it our mission to support marketers and lead you to the voices, resources, and tools that impact your success in this fast-paced industry.